9. MV Panayotis. The Greek island of Zakynthos is home to a world-famous crescent-shaped shoreline called Navajo Beach, which can only be accessed by boat. It's best known for the mysterious shipwreck that sits in plain view among its pristine white sands. Built in 1937, the 157-foot-long, or 47.9 meters, Saint Beden participated in the evacuation of Allied soldiers from the port of Dunkirk during World War II, known as Operation Dynamo. In the following decades, it functioned as a cargo ship, changing hands and names several times before becoming the MV Panayotis. The vessel met its fate in October of 1980 when it ran aground at Navajo Beach. Rumors claimed that the Panayotis operated as a smuggling ship during its final years, and it was on its way to Turkey with an illegal cargo of cigarettes and alcohol when it wrecked. Legend holds that the Greek Navy was chasing the ship and cornered it into the cove where it sits today. But the story may actually be far less exciting than that. Captain Karalambos Kompothakras Kotsoros, who was navigating the vessel when it ran aground, claimed that there was nothing illegal aboard the Panayotis. He also said that it wasn't being chased by the Navy, but that it crashed due to poor weather and mechanical problems. Soon enough, thieves appeared and looted the cargo. When the captain returned to Zakynthos to retrieve the ship, he was in so much awe by the sight of the ship against the scenic backdrop of the vibrant blue waters and high cliffs that he decided to leave it where it was. Navajo became Greece's most iconic beach and one of its top tourist attractions. Unfortunately, the Greek tourism ministry closed the site in 2018 after several visitors were hurt in a landslide. In 2021, a committee was appointed to determine the future of Navajo Beach. They're hoping to restore the wreck and make the site safe for visitors. 8. Deserted Water Park. Along the False Bay coast in Cape Town, South Africa, there's an old water park that's been totally reclaimed by nature. It's located within the 2,760-acre, or 1,117 hectares, Makassar Dunes Conservation Area. Cracked, faded by the sun, and filled with sand, the buildings and water slides are reminiscent of a time when families flocked to the park to beat hot temperatures. After it was built back in the early 90s, Makassar Beach Pavilion became a hotspot for recreation. Today, it's eerily falling apart, and most young adults have never even heard of it. The park closed after encountering a series of financial issues. Since then, the former concession stands, locker rooms, pools, and water slides have lost their bright hue and are no longer packed with visitors. Walls have become covered with graffiti, paint is chipping, and broken glass and tiles scatter the floors and ground. Some buildings are filled almost to the ceiling with sand, owing to its location within the largest and highest dune system in the Cape Peninsula. Details about the circumstances surrounding the park's closure are obscure, and it remains a popular source of curiosity among urban explorers and photographers. 7. Bermuda Triangle Lighthouse. On the small Bahamian island of Great Isaac Cay, there's a 151-foot-tall, or 46 meters, rustling lighthouse surrounded by abandoned buildings. It's only accessible by boat, and the site is shrouded in mystery. The lighthouse was built during the 1850s and was found abandoned by its two keepers in 1969. They were never found. Because Great Isaac Cay is located along the Bermuda Triangle, some speculated that the men were casualties of the region's mysterious forces. But it's more likely that they were swept away and killed in Hurricane Ana, which passed by close enough to bring dangerous weather to the island. Adding to Great Isaac Cay's dark history is a 19th century legend about a boat that ran aground, killing nearly everyone aboard. It's said that the mother of the sole surviving infant, known as the Gray Lady, can be seen wandering the island and heard wailing during full moons. The stairs to the lighthouse have been removed to prevent anyone from going in, but the site is open to the public. All the surrounding buildings, including the keeper's quarters and cistern, have also been left to rot. And it's in a remote location at least 20 nautical miles away from the nearest neighboring island. Reaching its lighthouse requires decent seafaring skills and physical agility. 6. Haunted Hotel. In the seaside town of Miramar in Argentina, there's a decrepit, crumbling building that once operated as a luxury hotel. Details about its past are difficult to find, but it's well known among locals for its chilling history and has a reputation for being haunted. One visitor shared some of the hotel's history in her paranormal exploration blog, Amy's Crypt. According to Amy, who also shares her supernatural adventures on YouTube, a family of German immigrants known as the Paulkes began building the Grand Hotel Vienna in the late 1930s. By the early 1940s, it had become one of the country's most upscale retreats, boasting a hair salon, air-conditioned rooms, a grand dining room, and a large pool. It attracted throngs of wealthy European vacationers looking to escape the stresses of their daily lives. Despite its state-of-the-art amenities, the Grand Hotel Vienna mysteriously shuttered its doors in 1946, just a handful of years after it first opened. The Paulke family packed up and moved, leaving the vacant building in the care of a German World War II veteran named Martin Kruger. Some suspected the resort was built by Nazi loyalists as a potential hideout and hospital for wounded German soldiers, or that it was perhaps even meant as a hiding place for Adolf Hitler to flee to after the war. It never went back into business, and 2 years after it closed down, Kruger was found dead, slumped over a table with a bottle nearby. Nobody knows whether he was murdered or committed suicide, but it appeared as though he was fatally poisoned. Rumors claim that Kruger's ghost continues to wander through the hotel to this day. Visitors have reported hearing footsteps and keys jangling, especially near his former bedroom, Room 106. People have also seen apparitions of a woman believed to be his lover, as well as a little girl, and have heard unexplained music and disembodied voices. Would you be brave enough to stay a night at this haunted hotel? Let us know in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. 5. Fort Jefferson. Located on a small, remote island 68 miles or 109 kilometers from Key West, Fort Jefferson is the largest brick masonry structure in the Americas. From 1861 to 1869, this sprawling 16-acre, 6.5 hectares fortress functioned as a U.S. military base. Its walls are several feet thick, and it was built to accommodate up to 1,500 people and 450 cannons. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers built Fort Jefferson in hopes of gaining an upper hand against European rivals and pirates in the Gulf of Mexico. It was still under construction when it became a Union stronghold during the Civil War. A series of misfortunes, including frequent hurricanes and yellow fever outbreaks, stopped it from ever being finished. From the end of the Civil War until the 1870s, the site operated as a prison. The site fell into disuse throughout the rest of the 19th century and was ultimately deserted. It was briefly reoccupied by U.S. forces after the Spanish-American War broke out in 1898, but it was abandoned for good in 1906 after sustaining severe hurricane damage. Fort Jefferson continued to decay until President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared it a national monument in 1935. Restoration work was performed, and in 1970, the site was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It became part of the newly established Dry Tortugas National Park in 1992 and remains open to visitors. 4. Abandoned Sanatorium. Situated among Spain's Canary Islands west of Africa, Tenerife is a popular destination for sunbathers, party seekers, and resort vacationers. One of its lesser-known sites, located along the southeastern coast, is an abandoned ghost town called Sanatorio de Abona. It was built as a leper colony, where the Spanish government planned to isolate the infected to prevent the disease from spreading. Sanatorio de Abona was first conceptualized after the Spanish Civil War ended in 1939. At the time, there were an estimated 200 leprosy cases on Tenerife, and there was no cure for leprosy. In keeping with standard policy of isolating patients, the facility was built on a remote part of the island. Its designer, architect José Enrique Marrero Regalado, planned for the site to consist of 40 buildings, including housing, a church, a crematorium, and a hospital. Construction started in 1943 and was still ongoing when a cure for leprosy was discovered in 1945. Work on the property ground to a halt, and Sanatorio de Abona was abandoned without ever housing a single leprosy patient. It was briefly used as a military camp during the 1960s, and at one point there were plans to turn it into a resort, but it never happened, and the site remains empty to this day. 3. Hitler's Resort. During the late 1930s, Adolf Hitler attempted to bring his vision of the ideal workers' vacation spot to life. Known as Prora, the retreat consisted of 8 identical buildings along the shore of Germany's Rügen Island. Original plans called for a resort spanning a 3-mile or 4.8-kilometer stretch of coastline. Every hotel room would offer a view of the Baltic Sea, while staircases, hallways, and certain other amenities would be on the land-facing sides of the buildings. Each room would have 2 beds, a sink, and an armoire, and there would be several shared bathrooms on each floor. The no-frills resort was meant to be efficient and cost-friendly, so that average German workers could afford to spend their time off there. Prora was one of several vacation sites that the Nazi leisure organization planned through its efforts to provide people with places to go on holiday. Hitler also had secret plans to use these sites as fallback military installations if the need ever arose. But the dictator's vision of a workers' paradise never came to fruition. All construction stopped at the beginning of World War II in 1939, and the 10,000 rooms at Prora were left empty and unfinished. The property was used for housing refugees and then as an elderly housing complex, but has sat abandoned since the 90s. 2. Atlantic Wall defenses. Between 1942 and 1944, Nazi Germany built an extensive system of coastal defenses and fortifications along the Scandinavian and continental European coasts. Known as the Atlantic Wall, its main purpose was to deter an Allied invasion of Nazi-occupied Europe from the United Kingdom. Guarded by thousands of German soldiers, the wall consisted of coastal guns, batteries, mortars, and artillery. Remnants of these structures are still visible in some places, although many have lost their battle against time and nature and have been swept away by the sea. Immediately following World War II, it wasn't a priority among Allied nations to preserve these sites, since they're of Nazi origin, so they were left to decay. A lot of the remaining Atlantic Wall fixtures are along the French coast. In Cap Breton, France, there's a collection of crumbling algae-covered structures known as the Cap Breton blockhouses. They're partially filled with sand, and they become partially flooded during high tide. The remaining building at Longues-sur-Mer Battery is more intact, mainly because it's set further back from the water than the Cape Breton blockhouses. It's the only battery in Normandy that contains all its original guns, and it's one of the best preserved defenses of its kind. The Channel Islands were among the most heavily fortified sections of the Atlantic Wall. One example can be seen on the island of Jersey. Located along the northwestern shore, Battery Moltke still has 4 large French guns that were captured by the Germans. They were meant to be temporary until bigger and better guns arrived, but that never happened. The site is also home to a tower called Marine Palestand. It's one of the 9 towers that the Nazis planned to build throughout Jersey, and one of the 3 that were actually built. Some of the defenses along the Atlantic Wall were never finished being built, including Battery Moltke. And despite their strength, the Allies managed to breach them at Normandy, forcing a change in Hitler's priorities as the war took a dramatic turn. 1. La Puntilla Beach Villa. Around 20 years ago, a decaying villa appeared on the shore of La Puntilla Beach in El Salvador. The lopsided graffiti-covered structure attracts curious visitors, many of whom dare to climb the intact staircase inside, despite the word "danger" and other warnings being scrawled throughout the interior. Nobody seems to know how the villa wound up on the beach, where water flows in and out of its lower level as the tides change. Some blame the infamous Hurricane Mitch that hit the area in 1998. It was one of history's deadliest recorded storms, claiming over 9,000 lives as it dumped 75 inches, 191 centimeters of rain on the region. It's certainly possible that the villa came from one of the many towns that were swept away by mudslides and flash floods. Some residents said that they believe it was once a hotel called Hotel Puerto Ventura, and that it was built along the beach. According to this version of events, it was abandoned around 25 years ago. A fisherman named Oscar Valencia told local news outlet La Prensa Gráfica that the villa was built too deep into the beach without obtaining official permission to build. While the building's origins are a mystery, it draws no shortage of explorers, especially since footage of it went viral on social media last year. Thanks for watching. Which one of these shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button while you're at it.